So the first Ms. Marvel trailer just dropped, and you know what that means. Every channel on YouTube is slapping together a quick video to cover it and get some of them sweet clicks. So here's my entry into that category, but I'm not going to be talking about Easter eggs or 6 hidden details you missed in the Ms. Marvel trailer or anything else like that. No, I'm going to take a bit of a different approach and talk about an issue that's been in the back of my mind about this Ms. Marvel series for a while, and the way this trailer, this first look at the series, has kind of intensified that worry I have about it. The reason I'm a little apprehensive about how they're gonna pull this Ms. Marvel series off properly is that I think there's a bit of a disconnect between this character, Kamala Khan, and the current state of the MCU, both in and out of universe. In a nutshell, a really big part of this character has always been her relationship with Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel, or in the comics, Ms. Marvel or Warbird, or you know, a handful of other aliases. This is the comics we're talking about after all. It's why she chooses her name, her powers, and her path. She's a fan of Carol Danvers. Now, I'm not trying to boil down the character of Kamala Khan to just her appreciation of another hero. That's not all she is, but it is a fairly big part of her character, at least initially. And from the look of the trailer, it's a part they're doubling down on in this version. Back when Kamala was introduced in the comics, this made sense. After all, Carol had been a superhero for a long time at this point, decades even, so it made sense that there were Ms. Marvel, Captain Marvel, Warbird superfans in this world, because there were in our world too. This was a familiar enough character, both among the comic buying public and in the Marvel continuity, that conceptually this made sense as an origin, and moreover, there was maybe a sense of synchronicity between the character of Kamala and real-life Captain Marvel fans. Because they were sort of in the same place, they both knew and respected the character and the legacy, the symbology of Carol Danvers, Ms. Marvel, Captain Marvel, and what it all stood for. But none of this is really the case when it comes to the MCU. Carol Danvers is sort of a newcomer, both in-universe and to the MCU watching public. From an in-universe perspective, there's been like 4 films in between the point at which she became known to the MCU's present-day Earth society, and this point at which we see a young girl idolizing her. That's not a great amount of time in MCU terms. Captain Marvel is still kind of the new kid on the block, or at least one of them. So if Kamala's deal is going to be that she's a Carol Danvers superfan in a world full of people who are a bit more on the hero, then it might be hard to get the audience to identify with her more than everyone else, considering we don't really know much about Carol either at this point. Coming back to the trailer, and particularly the effects they're using for her powers, it really does seem like they're setting the character of Ms. Marvel up to be in direct dialogue with the legacy of Captain Marvel, but in the MCU she doesn't have a legacy yet, or at least not one that we've been shown. And if they do develop Carol into being some sort of beloved, mighty world-saving Avenger off-screen, that feels like a very cheap and lazy fix to a problem that didn't really exist up until this point. I mean, there are ways that they could make this character a bigger deal in-universe than we've seen out-of-universe. The blip alone is 5 free years of world building. I've got a Patreon-exclusive video coming out any day now, all about how I think the MCU really missed the boat by sort of forgetting about the blip and not making more of it, but this isn't the way I'd want them to do it. A series exploring the legacy of Captain Marvel isn't gonna work if you just retcon that legacy in. It's just gonna add to this sense of disconnect between the audience and the world. Now, there are ways to play with this metatextual disconnect in interesting ways, and I wouldn't put it past Marvel to recognize this issue themselves and try to do something clever. But my issue is, at the moment from this trailer, I'm not seeing any hints at this sort of thing, and if they are going to play this straight, then I just don't see the Ms. Marvel character landing as well when we've pretty much only just met Captain Marvel. And that'd be a massive shame, because I really like most of the stuff we're seeing in this trailer. I'm instantly on board with Iman Vellani in the title role, and I'm already a fan of the sense of immense joy we see in her take on the character. I really like the visual style of it too, and Blinding Lights by The Weeknd always bangs as a soundtrack. And if there's one trope I probably won't ever get tired of, it's the whole secret superpowers in high school thing. And it looks like it'll be a lot of fun here, and obviously it should go without saying, but more diversity and more different cultures being showcased and explored in the MCU is is always a positive. So yeah, so far most aspects of this series are looking pretty solid from the trailer, except for the big one. The fact that as of now, this universe's Carol Danvers has no history, no legacy to explore. And honestly, if there's not a pretty creative solution down the road for this, I think this disconnect between the world we're shown in the trailer and the world we inhabit as MCU watchers could really stunt this project and this character. So whose fault is this? Is it the writer's fault? Is it Disney's fault? Is it Brie Larson's fault? Yes, haven't you heard? Everything is Brie Larson's fault, and we all hate her because she's a woman. Oh shit. Why does everyone hate Brie Larson again? Oh, right, it's because the internet is full of sexist assholes. No, the fault lies with none of these parties. Although, side note, Disney themselves are at fault for a number of other far more serious things. Like the way they're kind of endorsing a really homophobic piece of Floridian legislature. But the person responsible for this particular problem, this particular thing that's making me apprehensive about the Ms. Marvel series, that's Ike Perlmutter. Previous Marvel head honcho and all-around scrotum Ike Perlmutter had a lot of say over which MCU movies got made and which didn't, and famously, he's the main reason it took us like a decade to get any non-male or non-white characters leading a film. If it weren't for this wrinkly old turd then, we probably would have seen Carol Danvers sooner in the MCU, and we would have got to know her better and become more accustomed to her presence in this universe before a property sprung up based around the in-universe legacy and reputation of Captain Marvel. And if that had happened, I wouldn't have this slight doubt in my head about how well the project's going to work. So yeah, thanks Ike Perlmutter, you colossal piece of This has been another of a new type of video I'm trying, a quick take. Shorter, non-scripted videos reacting to news and trailers and such, so if you like this format, let me know and I'll keep doing them. Otherwise, I think that's it, so I'm gonna go now and get back to the Young Justice video I was hoping to put out today instead. But yeah, like and subscribe or I'll inflate my fist to the size of a watermelon and punch you square on the jaw. And big thanks, as always, to all my patrons on screen now, especially Ian Fifield.